Perfect. Hey everyone, welcome to the panel. Thank you so much for coming here. Today we're just gonna have a really casual conversation with our friend Crystal Khan. She is currently a story artist at Nickelodeon DreamWorks TV, or has been as a story artist at Nickelodeon DreamWorks TV, Scholastic and Macmillan. I'm just gonna pass it straight to Crystal for her to introduce herself.
Yeah, so I'm a storyboard artist. I'm also executive board member of the Animation Guild, currently serving my third year. Let's see, I'm currently at 6 Point Harness, but that was as of 2 weeks ago, so there's no way that Christian could have known. But yeah, I'm on a project. Can't tell what, but that's how the business be.
Perfect. So we just get straight into the questions then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. Everyone, please ask your questions right now. Any questions straight right now?
Okay, first question. Ernest Kim, what challenges do you see ahead in this industry?
Oh boy. As a whole, I think it's a big question about what remote work means for us and what does that mean for our industry and the union overall. Because it's a big question of like, can we organize everyone to rally together so that we can actually control the means of production as workers? It's kind of like, oh man, I'm already going into my union talk, but it's like, can we reach out to everyone, and where the studios will try to get around giving everyone their benefits? Like, how do we find ways around that? How do we shut down where, no one doesn't get their benefits, that's like the big question mark of what remote work means. But right now, I think the studios are trying to get us all back in-house, and I think it's mostly a question of control at that point. But like the flexibility is really what everyone desires at this point, because we all work from home. We all realize we don't actually have to be in an office to do our job, and we're still doing it well. So that's the crossroads we be at.
Thank you for the answer. Ricky Lee asked, "Hi Crystal, you mentioned you had a demo about what level of drawing is expected for the industry. Can you tell us more?"
Oh, fun. Let's dive into it. Should I share my screen?
Know that like our talk today, it wasn't like a mock interview or a proper prep or anything, but the one I had with Sunny really went well. Like, hey Sood, you're on unmuted.
You're unmuted, Sood.
Oh, sorry.
You're all good.
I was
Okay.
like, was this a question?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
All right, then let me go share my screen. I think. Does this work?
Perfect.
Awesome. Let me move this out of my way so I don't have to see that in front of me. All right, so let's see. What was the question exactly? Drawing skills. So one, gotta be able to draw your backgrounds. Two, you gotta be able to draw your figures. Wow, what a pen. Draw your figures in a way that you can tell what's going on. Usually I like to tell people, if you want to draw humanoids, you gotta learn how to draw a Mega Man. So this is like usually my base, like, I don't know, I'm just gonna shoot from the hip. That thumb is way broken, holy wow. And like be able to draw foreshortening. Maybe I gotta fix that a little bit over there, and like be able to draw characters like sitting or doing whatever angles. This is probably not a good example because my brain's not thinking at the moment, but maybe like if I wanted to draw this character from like above.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Then I might think about like how to break a human down like this. This is just going to be utterly on the pressure garbage, man.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine. Relax. It's all good.
And like, then I can like draw the background down like a down shot and stuff like that. So like, it's like being able to draw a character more than just, let's see, like your anime kid facing left, just staring into the distance over here. I'm unfortunately calling out everyone who doodles in school like this at like a straight angle shot like this, and like your hands are behind your back because you don't know how to draw hands. Like we need more than just that, right? We need to be able to draw down shots. We need to be able to draw up shots, and not just humans. Sometimes you need to be able to draw animals too. So you're like, how does a pig do a cartwheel? Like, I don't know, man. Like, that's a good question. These are questions I ask myself at work. Yeah, like anatomically, it shouldn't be able to do a cartwheel, but you know what? This cartoons are cartoons. Maybe it'll go like this. But like that is like the general gist. Like I would say if you want to get good at drawing humans, Mega Man is a great person to start with because he's got very easy like body parts. Like you got the basic torso. He's got like that like upper body armor, and then like that middle torso, and then he's got like that faux underwear situation, I guess, now that I think about it. But like you break a human down into parts like this, and like you'll see in like Voltron and like other character designs that they break down a character with shoulders like here, and then they'll have like the little arm part here. And this is mostly just so that it's easier to tell how to foreshorten. Like I'm drawing a bastardized version of this because I don't do action boards, but I know enough people on action boards that I understand the concept enough that like this is what you need to do. This arm is way huge, but I'm exaggerating on purpose, I guess is the best way to put it. So that way, when you draw a character foreshortened, wow. Like maybe, I don't know. I'll just pick a random pose. I'm just gonna wing it. Like these parts kind of connect in a way that makes sense in the weird Mega Man way. I don't know how this turned into an art demo, man.
You're all good.
I figured that like somebody would ask, and it was better if I was at my main computer if I was going to do this. Maybe I'll just like, I don't know. Wait, I don't like that pose. Let's do like a leg front here so it makes more sense. I don't like this pose already. It's not that natural, but like it's gonna prove a point. But like you can kind of tell that like the way that I draw is very like reverse engineering my like how this would work. Because you notice I didn't exactly draw how the arm goes. But let me see if I can get the well, wait, hang on. Okay. Wait, no, I still don't know. Whatever. Brain farting here. But let me see if I can get some visual indicators. So maybe blue would be best. And then we'll do this and get this back here. No, wait, I don't want that. So like let's just say like this is like the blue part here. And we'll do like, I don't know, green. This is just gonna be gobbledygook. Wow. And then maybe some red here just to kind of indicate here. So then by logic there, green is here. And then purple's here. And then red is here. So like being able to like kind of think of drawing your characters in something like this with some weird wizardry kind of helps, at least in doing figure invention, and figure invention is kind of like a big part. It's like it's like if you go cafe drawing, you're not always going to be like, you'll always kind of see at seating level, but then what if you try to draw that person in the cafe but like at an angle you're not usually comfortable with. Yeah, or like when you're life drawing animals, they're not going to sit still for you, so you kind of have to like understand anatomy enough to like wing it when you're drawing it, but then like capture the pose in your brain when you're staring down a lion in the zoo.
Yeah. To add on or to ask you, so it's more so seeing figures or props in both a layers perspective and a modular perspective, familiarizing with the different parts of the body and seeing how you can twist and bend them yourself.
Yeah, I think Grizz and Norm has like a really good example in their books about how to draw like this, where they're like draw like the creepy hands and like draw like the face or whatever, and then like draw where you want the hands to be. Like if you want like a hand here and a hand here, then like how do you JoJo that, reverse engineer it to JoJo that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Grizz and Norm tutorials are the best. I would definitely recommend checking them out.
You know, it's like they'll give you little tips and they're really good for this kind of stuff. But for the most part, if you wanted to, like, if you can't visualize it, then I would just get like a Figma or like a model that like would help you do it. Don't get the bargain bin ones from like Michael's or whatever. Go get like a nice posable one that I have in another room, but I don't have it near me. And like if that helps you visualize it, that's cool. Like some of us are able to visualize it and some of us are not, and sometimes it just takes a little bit more training to like draw in that way.
Yeah. So would you say that we captured the question, or we answered the question?
Which was, I think so. I'm gonna stop screen sharing.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, next question from Pine Fam is, hi Crystal. When I pitch, I get a little too fixated on character voices and forget to describe what's happening in the boards themselves. How do you train yourself to balance all of the aspects?
I am not the best person to ask about pitching because I ended up on a show for about 2 years where I didn't have to pitch, except to my director. But I think doing both is also good because it helps you distinguish who's talking, but you don't have to do like outrageous voices. Like I literally had maybe about 4 voices and one of them is disappointed Asian dad. So don't make me do that one. But I think if you practice and then you kind of remember to take your time. Sometimes I try to trick myself and pretend that no one's behind me because I'm also very like, I'm also kind of a shy, like I don't like to present in front of groups, but when I don't pay attention to who's around me, I panic a little bit less.
Yeah.
And there's also like little tricks I'll do to myself. Like if I know I'm the type to over click a panel, I might add an extra buffer panel so I don't accidentally skip and then have to go back. That's like a trick to myself. I'm like, oh, I accidentally went through, you know what, I'm just gonna add a buffer panel so I don't have to worry about accidentally going through too much. And then, yeah.
You're just keeping it safe.
Yeah, keeping it safe because I know I'm the type to be like, let's go. Let's get this over with.
Yeah, total mood.
Next question from Gabby Diaz is, how do you feel when boards get rejected or cut? How do you come back with a different idea or mindset?
I try not to take it personally because in the end, we're trying to make it better. Like I know my directors have usually more experience than me and then usually will try to come up with ways to make it better. And like, I would say like 85% of the time, I generally agree with them.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you're right. That was better. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, you know, it is what it is. And then like not being too precious about it because like at the end of the day, I'm doing work for a company. And like, while I want to put my best foot forward, it's not my stuff. Like, it's not my, it's not my magnum opus. It's not my comic. It's not my project. And it's really hard to be like that, I think, once you move up towards like showrunner level, because you're like, this is my baby, I pitched it. But like, you know,
this feels bad.
But when you're like a storyboard artist, it's a little bit easier to detach yourself, being like, I'm here to do a job. And like, if I get critiques, like it's all in the idea of making this better, you know? And it's not like anything personal against me. It's not being like, you're a bad board artist. It's usually more like, okay, this is cool, but let's see if we can make it better. And then like, sometimes it ends up like, I'll be chatting with my director and we'll be like, yeah. And then what if we did this? And then, you know?
Yeah.
And
So
like, well, it's more of a back and forth at that point.
Yeah. Would you say something that helped me out was this term or saying that be able to kill your darlings? You've heard of that before? Yeah,
I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to see it as you said something that resonated with me was it's not your baby that you're making, it's someone else's project, and you're just an idea solver essentially.
Yeah, like you're like a mercenary hired gun on a cool team, badass board artist.
Amelia Kim asks, how did you know that storyboarding was right for you personally? What qualities do you think make for good storyboard artists?
So I think I didn't have the words to put it back then, which was when I was in high school and I was drawing comics and like making up cool stories and, you know, like making up my OCs that I won't show because I'm not as brave as Domishi. And like, you know, just creating content that was just about like characters and locations and like settings that were just beyond what I could do. And that was when I was like, well, I guess this is gonna go all the way back to an origin story. So like, you know, I was actually that like good Asian child who tried to get the A's but was only a B student.
Yeah, relatable.
All honors classes, you know, like your parents wanted you to do all honors, go to chemistry, get physics, AP calculus. I got a 5 on AP calc. You know, like that's the level of like high Asian energy that I had to like live up to in the stereotypes that we had. And at some point I was just like, yo, like if I'm like number 30 out of like my high school kids, and there are, let's say, thousands and thousands of high schools out there, and if I am number 30 in those thousands of high schools, I'm not going to make it against all the people who are going to go get PhDs and master's degrees.
Yeah.
And maybe that was like the only the like wisest moment I had back then was I'm not going to be able to make it against those people.
It's daunting.
People are hyper competitive.
Yeah, it's really scary, you know, viewing from that lens.
And also like kind of a part of what affected me back then was that maybe about 2 or 3 years after I graduated high school, my favorite teacher passed away from like, you know, he just retired and then he passed away. And in his retirement plan was like to write the book that he finally wanted to write this whole time, right? So like you kind of have to think about it being like, well, like if I only have one life to live, then YOLO.
Yeah, make the most of it.
Let's try to do the thing that I want to do. And of course, like it was difficult with my parents at that point, but like it was something I decided back in high school that I wanted to do, and I stuck through with it even though a recession happened in the middle of my journey and I wasn't able to get the job straight out of college. And it took like another, I want to say like 4 or 5 years after college to finally get a job in animation. But I would say that I took like the Dark Souls path of trying to break into this industry. And it's definitely much easier if you take other paths or if you like have a lot of money and happen to be born a certain way. That makes it easier for you to break in. But I realized back then that was something I wanted to do. I didn't know it was storyboarding until maybe about a year or two after college. And also, I was also kind of doing comics at the same time. And I kind of was like, well, comics kind of doesn't seem that sustainable. Animation does. And like, that's where my original heart and like what I wanted to do was back then. So I kind of stuck with it. And then I was like, storyboarding is where I want to be. Design is boring. Sorry, designers. I just like, I don't have the attention to detail of that form. And like, I just rather like get the story out as fast as I can.
Can we just go a little bit into your, I guess, earlier part of your career where you said there was a lull right after graduation for about 4 years. Can you tell us about what you did personally to stay competitive or keep your portfolio up to date?
So I when I was in college, I also side hustled as a computer lab tech
Oh,
for
I
the art
feel you.
department.
Yeah.
So your girl was like the lead computer lab tech at my tiny college called the College of New Jersey,
Yeah.
which everyone will think is fake unless you're from New Jersey. But I swear to you, it's like poor man's Princeton.
Poor man's Princeton. How many people were
Poor man's
at
Princeton.
that college?
Honestly, not a lot of people, but
Yeah.
a lot of valedictorians from New Jersey went to that school because it was considered a very accredited smart school for smart children. But they couldn't afford Princeton.
It was like the backup school, essentially.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I went, one of my high school classmates went there, and now she's some like crazy high paid lawyer. So like, you know, your mileage may vary.
Yeah.
But like I graduated and I ended up working Apple retail for a few years actually, and trying to grab whatever internships I could. But since I was in New Jersey, there's not much out there. So like I unfortunately had to do like a few unpaid internships, and that still led to nowhere because the job market was just that terrible in 2010 to 12,
Yeah.
you know. So while working at Apple Retail, I was working on my personal stuff. I was going to conventions. I was doing the anime con circuit. So, you know, I know all the deep geek culture stuff for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And like kind of running my own business, trying to write my own comics, trying to make my portfolio something that was doable. And at some point I was just like, okay, well, I'm at a crossroads here. I can either stay in New Jersey and I can go into IT
Yeah.
because that's what my parents were pressuring me to, or I can YOLO again and go straight all the way to California and like try to make my way out here and network and stuff. And not everyone has the privilege or the ability to do that, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful that I have parents that kind of planned for that.
Yeah.
Like TLDR, like they went from poverty to like middle class-ish and were able to like, you know, plan ahead enough to plan for both me and my brother's futures. So if I wanted to go to master's in something, they would have been like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
But I said, let's go this weird cheap like like scenic route to glory. Where I may
you took
not
that
be
leap of
on the
faith.
highway straight to where I want to be, but I'm like, I don't know, man, let's go.
Yeah. It was like a leap of faith you took.
Yeah, but like now I'm trying to pay it forward because I had that ability to get to where I am because of them.
Yeah. Can you go back and tell us what was that first job you picked up right after that lull, and what about your portfolio and resume like resonated with your recruiter or the director?
Okay. Let's see. I took a few classes at Concept Design Academy, and that was where I started to actually understand storyboarding for real, and also like have a portfolio that was strong enough to kind of actually get like callbacks for once.
Yeah.
But that was after I took like basically like storyboard boot camp hardcore. It's no longer available. The teacher stopped teaching it, but he was a great teacher. But like our assignment was to create like the first 5 minutes of any Pixar movie, but like in our own IP or whatever. And we were like, are you sure we could do that? And he's like, I believe in all of you. And we're like, that's a lot of expectations, Asian dad, but we'll try. And like having a storyboard that also made sense, like when I play through my boards from back then, I can still kind of see like, okay, like it plays as a board.
Yeah.
And like actually those samples are still on my website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so if you go to my website, crystalcan.com, obviously you'll see the professional links, but anything that doesn't look like I worked on a fan art of some major IP,
Yeah.
that's my stuff from my school days. And that's like usually where I point to and be like, that's like the level you need to be at in order to like get a job. And then like like of course with like the caveat of like, well, my drawing skills aren't as amazing as other other artists at that time. So like I made up for it by having boards that made sense.
Yeah.
Whereas like other people I know, just their drawing skills alone was enough for them to get at least a revisionist gig because they were that good at being a draftsman person. So like it's like, okay, if you're not like as good at drawing as like somebody who can draw anatomically like a human printer, like then I'd be like, okay, you need some storyboards at the very least.
Yeah.
But like looking through tag portfolio, like I'm the person who goes through all the portfolios for like tag portfolio review because well, not just me, but like I am the person leading it, and I've looked through at least like a couple thousand at this point.
Yeah.
And like there's always a point where I'm like, okay, like this person has the basic ideas of how storyboards are structured, but they just can't draw it, and their drawing ability limits them from being able to draw what they envision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, I'm like, it's your draftsmanship, man. Like, come on, you gotta practice like 3-point perspective and being able to draw in 3-point perspective. And then once you get the 3-point perspective done, have fun with fisheye lenses because that's what I had to draw for 2 years.
Yeah. Just getting all the
like
basics
work
down.
perspective, baby.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of portfolio reviews, Ernest asked, what are the main problems you usually find in story portfolios aside from draftsmanship? Would you mind telling us anything else?
I think it's mostly the thing is that like it's hard to gauge where exactly the line is for people who want to break in and like where exactly that line is, because I've seen some less than stellar break in and I'd be like, okay, but maybe they had more connections or something, I don't know. But like for the most part, it's like they want to make sure that you can do the job before you get in. So it's making sure you don't break the 180 rule, but like technically you can. Trying to figure out which shots desire the like the close-up, because you don't usually use close-ups that much unless you're trying to like do a very like impactful moment. Usually it's like some varieties of medium and wide until you like get to like a intimate conversation. Maybe it's like the part where you kind of have the storytelling in the images along with the like logical parts of storyboarding.
Yeah.
Like to me, I like to think of storyboarding as like a big puzzle, and that's like the puzzle strategy nerd in me, being like a video gamer, being like, yeah, excellent, like I just need to figure out the pieces that fit here, and then I'll play some 5th dimensional chess like this, and like trying to set yourself up for success, because like sometimes you'll start boarding something and then you don't realize that the way you set it up made it extra hard for you.
Yeah, it's a lot of problem solving, especially like in the thumbnail stage, you like explore a lot of different options.
Yeah, but like 90% is usually draftsmanship.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, if you can't draw the thing that you want to envision, then it's really hard to draw it. And then maybe my other thought would be like, usually people will draw with like backgrounds of like straight vertical lines and straight horizontal lines, and like reality isn't really that straight.
It's too perfect.
Yeah, so like usually I'll be like, well, if you want to like imply like a 3-point perspective, I'll usually be like, just turn your lines a little bit this way, or like turn your lines a little bit that way, you know, and like your verticals will make it feel more natural in a weird way. I don't know how exactly to describe it, but that's how you can cheat perspective for people who can't perspective well.
Little life hack for storyboarders.
How to perspective for kids who can't perspective well and want to learn other things good too.
Make sure you want to draw good. Next question from Vanessa is, hi Crystal and hosts, how was your experience breaking into the industry like as a student, and how did you go about branding yourself online? You kind of answered like half of that earlier, huh?
Yeah. I think I'm not great at self-branding, but I'm better than I think I am. I think it's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Because I think if you brand yourself in a way to the work that you want to work on, then you'll start getting calls from those kinds of shows. So for example, I think my portfolio kind of garners towards the kids and family genre, as they call it.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly like a primetime person, but hey, maybe.
Yeah. Whatever pays the bills, great.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm on a primetime show, so like,
Ooh, yeah.
yeah, like it's my first foray back into adult animation since I was an intern doing like cleanup work for Super Jail.
Yeah.
On
That
like
sounds
Titmouse, New
fun.
York. You know what? It was a lot of blood.
I bet.
Whoa.
Yeah. I remember that.
But I that's the stuff where you're like, oh, I might not be into it, but like you gotta find a way that you're okay with drawing that kind of stuff. But I never was too into self-branding, and I kind of always felt icky about self-promotion in that way. So my way of networking was just becoming friends with people, like a genuine person.
Yeah, I love that too. Just like work with people who you know and are friends with. I think that's the best way
Yeah.
to network.
Because like a lot of what I've always noticed in like, especially in classes, is that like students will try to chum up with the teacher, but the teacher might not have as much of ability to vouch for you as you think.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like your classmates might actually have more chances of being able to be like, hey, I can't take this job, but I'm low enough to give like my entry level work to someone else. I've
Yeah.
heard that this position is open, and would you be interested, and can I forward your work?
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's super hard to, on the other side, for me to like recommend people that way, because like sometimes I'm like, I really want this person to be in the industry. They've been trying for so long and so hard, but like
Mhm.
I can't for some reason get them a job because their portfolio isn't strong enough, right?
Yeah.
So, and sometimes like the portfolio doesn't fit the need either. So like sometimes like I'll hear about a show and then they'll be like, I'm looking for a revisionist, and then I feel like, I remember that person's board. They were really good. Let
Yeah.
me forward their name and their info,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in animation yet. I'm currently in the games industry as a virtual reality designer, but it's the exact
Ew.
same way. Ew? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I said, hey,
Oh,
yo.
okay. Yeah. And it's the exact same way. It's just like I'm gonna recommend my friends. If I'm not up to the task for a job, or if I find a job that I know would fit a friend, I forward it to them and let the recruiter know, like, hey, like I can't take this job. My friend could totally, absolutely, do it. Please look at their stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how
Like
it works in my
and then
industry.
it's just a matter of like the person in charge being like, yeah, I'll take a chance on this person,
Yeah. That's how it works too. That's how I got my first job.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, someone took a chance on me.
Like I want to say that's how I got my first job at DreamWorks, although I didn't really know that was happening behind the scenes until I
Yeah.
walked in. It was a funny story basically because I was working a lot of non-union gigs here and there, and a lot of those were also from my classmates that were like, I'm at this studio, I saw your work in our like look closer pile, and I said hire her because she's a cool person.
Yeah.
But like that was like at least 3 different times that I had to have that happen to me to start getting union work. And then
Hmm.
for myself to have enough of a reputation that people were like, Crystal's a cool gal. She'll stand up for her friends and she'll feed you snacks and make sure you're okay.
Yeah. Aside from being a really nice person in the industry, do you mind telling us how you can get your work in front of, say, recruiters or directors, especially during amongst COVID and being online?
And I think it's just have you know what, do the SEO thing, have your
Hmm.
name, have some form of animation or storyboard next to your name,
Yeah.
so that I can easily Google that stuff. Like right now I'm going through portfolios and I'm finding people like submitting, but they didn't put in their URL. I'm like,
What do you want me to do,
gotta teach
man? Yeah.
gotta teach you the hard lesson. I hate to do this,
Yeah.
or like they didn't clearly follow instructions. I'm like, I hate to do this to you too, but no, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So keep
Like
yourself search
the
engine
nice person in
optimized.
me doesn't want to do this to you, but like trying to teach a lesson of like you have to be attentive enough to details when you're applying to a place
Yeah.
that like, you know, you have to make sure all your ducks are in a row before you send off the application.
Yeah.
And then my other thought was like, I think if you keep your stuff short and sweet, like I'm the type of person who doesn't like to write more than what I absolute minimum. And I think that's somewhat appreciated because I'm like, hello, I am board artist.
Very straight to the point.
Like, hello, I am board artist, currently available for work. I have
Yeah.
worked in X, Y, and Z, or I have taken classes, or I heard through this position through insert name here. Here is my work. Here is my contact info. Please talk to me. Like that might be all you actually need.
Yeah. Especially with the cold emailing recruiters and directors. It sometimes, most of the time for me, it works.
Yeah.
Noman, what's your experience trying to break in?
Oh, I'm currently a student and I am trying to break into story. So I'm working on it. I'm like submitting my portfolio for reviews. I make sure my website is clear, concise, has all my contact information and has all my boarding samples. And now I'm just currently trying to gather some additional experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm working on it.
I feel it.
The less barriers to your work, the better. So I actually find it better if you have a portfolio website and like I'm just there and your work is where I scroll down.
Oh,
yeah. Make sure to like link straight into the boards tab because I heard other people they like
not even a board tab. Like if you're into boards, just have boards like your name, a little brief bio about yourself, and just your boards below that. I don't want to care about your designs, your life drawings, or whatever. Some people do. So like you can have it, but like don't have that be your main thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to actually make that mistake, which I'm kind of embarrassed about. But after I like
don't worry, my site was like
panels,
that too.
I was like, oh no, I should fix a lot of things. So yeah, it should be straight to the point.
Yeah.
As you said.
Like the less clicks I have to do, the better.
Yeah. Okay, so our next question is from Konish. Actually, do you mind if the attendees actually directly ask you questions, or do you prefer us to read them out loud to you?
I don't mind, whichever. If it's more efficient to have you guys answer it, then it's cool to do it this way.
Well, it's okay. Do you have a certain cutoff time? Are you in a hurry or anything?
No, my cutoff time is when I'm hungry.
Felt that. I felt that.
Okay, that's totally
you guys are lucky. I had some errands to run during lunch, and so I had a very late lunch.
Okay, I'm just gonna unmute Kanish if they're still there.
Hello. I'm sorry if I don't answer directly. My brain sometimes goes on like weird tangents.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
I wanted to ask, as someone who's not been to art school, how do you break into the industry, and what are the challenges that you face as an outsider, and how do you overcome them?
So the downsides of being someone who didn't go to art school, like I went to a regular state college with an art degree, which is a degree that no longer exists and is offered at that college, but sort of exists spiritually. And the downside is that I don't have the connections, and I'm also not in a location that that would behoove me to be able to network as well. So like I'm already hit with like a double whammy of not being able to get the work. So maybe that's where kind of being online kind of helps out a lot, but I don't know how well that affects these days, because like I've seen people who have like thousands and thousands of followers and like they get in, but I've also seen people with like absolutely no internet presence and they've broken in. So it's you'd have to go to more events. You kind of have to put yourself out there a bit more, but overall, I think it's just mostly like trying to make friends and like try to find classmates and people who are of like mind, and like you're all in it together. There's no weird like zero-sum game where you're all like ants trying to climb over each other to like get to the top of like a hill or out of the hole or whatever.
Yeah.
Like eventually y'all will look out for each other and try to help each other into the industry, especially if you really like each other. So I don't know if like the right answer these days is to move to Los Angeles, but that was kind of the right move for me at the time because it was all here. And it was just more of a numbers game at that point because like when you're out here in Los Angeles, there's just a lot of opportunities, whereas somewhere in like New York or Georgia or like Texas, you might have to be more involved with the community first before you are let into the job part. Because I feel like those sections are more tight knit, but you might be able to like go to like an event and then like meet some people and then try not to be weird, but like, you know, still try to be cool. But it's kind of hard because you're socially awkward.
That's the vibe check.
Yeah. But like, you know, maybe like be like, instead of just being like, hey, like let's meet up for a coffee, like invite them to something casual to hang out with you with, and if they have the time they'll hang out with you, you know. It's kind of one of those things where it's like everyone has their own journey and everyone has their own way of breaking in, and like my way of breaking in might not be the right way for you to break in. It might not be the only way to break in. Like, you know, you could always kind of do the intern PA production route. You could always kind of have like a direct in with someone because you went to some crazy heavy hitting art school and you're crazy talent. But like I'm kind of coming in from like I didn't go to like a fancy art school and I kind of had to like heavy grind my way in. Yeah, I don't know if that's like a good answer though. Does that help though?
Kanish? I'd say it's helpful, honestly.
Okay.
Someone who's
Yeah,
not coming
helpful.
from an art school background.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like a lot of learning how to be kind to yourself first before like you can break in, because like sometimes like you're your harshest critic, right? You're like, man, I'm like 2 years out of art school and I didn't break in. I'm 1 year out of art school, I didn't break in. I'm 1 month out of art school and I didn't break in. And you're like, like how many different levels of like self criticizing are you going to do when it's not a race? Everyone has their own pace. You know, I've known people who broke it in their 30s, you know. Doesn't mean it's the wrong way. Doesn't mean that like their other career midlife crisis decided to switch careers kind of was the way to go, you know. So like even if you didn't break in like immediately after college, it doesn't mean that it's a never, because like all we look for is whether you can do the job and whether you are a cool, chill person.
Let's see here. Timothy Sam asks, have you faced any struggles in finding a work-life balance in the industry?
It's still an everyday struggle, but at the I've at least gotten to the point where I'm like, I do my 40 hours and that's it. You do not get more out of me. Because if I had to spend extra time to do more work, I want to work on my own stuff. You know, but then now I'm like all into union activism too. So like at some point I'm like, well, do I work on my own stuff or do I help everyone, you know? And that's something I'm still kind of learning to balance, but I think it's learning how to draw boundaries in the right spots and like sticking to those boundaries and sticking up for yourself at those times when you need to make those boundaries. Like, yo, man, work is not cool to take this amount of time out of my life unless you're paying me time and a half, because this is my premium. If you're going to take away my Fire Emblem dating time, this is a premium. You're taking away from my Ace Attorney time.
My time with Martha is very valuable. You don't understand.
You don't understand.
I wanted to ask you, especially as a designer in virtual reality, something I have a problem with is even after my 40 hours, I'm still thinking about designs afterwards. I may not be putting it on paper or writing it down somewhere, but it's still in my head, even when I'm just trying to relax. Do you have an issue with that too? And if you do, how do you mitigate that?
by making myself too busy with other things.
I completely get that.
Distract yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I don't, that's like kind of the funny answer. I think it's, I mean, you kind of can't turn off that part of your brain, but you try to redirect it towards something that's more self-fulfilling than work fulfilling. Like if you want to make games for yourself, like do it for yourself, you know. If you want to make your own comic, do it for yourself, but don't do it for money. Don't do it on the work. And sometimes it's okay to have hobbies that don't make profit. Like that's what cooking and gardening is about, right? It won't pay me, but I'm fed and I'm fulfilled.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's relaxing.
Yeah, make fulfilling to yourself. As long as it fulfills you, you're relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, someone.
What's up?
Never mind. I'm gonna pretend that the chat doesn't exist.
if you want to pick a specific question, me and Nolan are just going down.
No, I just saw my buddy in there.
Do you want to shout them out? It's okay if you want to shout them out.
Well, of course, it's my union buddy, Jake Hollander,
aka
yeah.
Hello. Noman, did you want to ask
he tried to
question?
hide from me, but I saw his name.
Okay. Next question from Christina Park. I see that you are using Storyboard Pro. Is there an application we need to learn when we go into the industry, or can we suffice with just doing Photoshop?
So what's more important is your ability to draw and your ability to storyboard. So like your ability to story tell in a way that makes sense, cinematography, your film language, your composition, all that is still the core of storyboarding. Without all that, like if you don't have any of those, the stuff that you produce, no matter what fancy tools you have, will look like garbage.
Yeah.
So if you do it via Procreate, via Photoshop, via Storyboard Pro, I would probably shy away from pen and paper because I would be like, okay, but how is this going to work in a pipeline? You know?
Yeah.
So like within reason, like if I can at least tell that you know how to use a computer and you can draw on a computer, like, okay, like we're cool. But if you're doing pen and paper and like you're showing me on your portfolio like a bunch of scans, I'd be like, these drawings better be real bomb.
Have you ever worked in a
90% of the time they're not.
Have you ever worked in a production where storyboarders were using different variations of software? So like maybe when someone's using Storyboard Pro, another one's using Photoshop, another using Anime. Okay.
I think there are still some productions out there that are like that. And they'll have a software, like editing software to like kind of put everything together.
Yeah.
So some of us are more comfortable in Storyboard Pro because it has a lot of tools. And then some people are more comfortable in Photoshop because it makes the drawings look nice and it appeases their soul.
Yeah.
But I find myself way slower in Photoshop because there's a lot of tricks that kind of hinder me in Photoshop. And I kind of don't care about the quality of my drawing as long as it gets the word across. But you can still board in Photoshop, you can still board in Procreate, I think is like what some crazy people in future are doing because they're like, I want to work on my iPad in the middle of a garden, like vibing in a cafe. And I'm like, nice to be you.
It sounds nice.
Hard.
Yeah.
I actually boarded my first ever piece in Procreate, and I liked it because of the brush quality and stuff, but it was hell to export, so I never did that again.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of a question of whether it can work in a pipeline, but like as long as you can draw and your compositions are good, like I got my first job without having like a lot of experience in Storyboard Pro, but I was super stupid confident in my ability to learn Storyboard Pro, and it worked.
To add to the Storyboard Pro conversation, Timothy wants to ask about making art or board artists to create animatics through Storyboard Pro, and he asks if there's a way to fight that.
The way to fight it is to not do it.
Basically.
Especially since, it kind of depends. This is like a hot topic debate. But I've been fortunate enough to be on enough shows that they were like, this is not your responsibility, and also the editor would do a better job than you because they're experienced in timing stuff. And I'm like, you're right, I don't have it. And also like Storyboard Pros, like animatic tools. I'm like, why do you do this to me? I mean, I'm learning a lot more about Storyboard Pro now that I have more time to kind of muck around a little bit on this production, but I'm also like, I don't like this. But like it, most of the time, if they have an editor on the show, they're just like, just rough timing. You don't have to be perfect. And that's enough for me to be like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But like I've been told, like if you want to move up to directing, then you should learn how to animatic time, and I'm like, but that's not my job.
Yeah.
But that's the job I want to move into.
Oh, dilemma.
It's complicated.
Another portfolio question for you. Thomas Wan asks, how do you find the balance between having enough variety in your portfolio versus having a specialty, i.e. drawing styles or genres?
I think it's like having enough variety that like showcases your ability to draw. So like I feel like this is kind of what I was told back in the day, and like I still kind of find it to be kind of true, is like have like one portfolio of like mostly humans, and then one portfolio piece of like animals doing stuff, because if you wanted to break into DreamWorks, they sure love talking animals. If you haven't noticed, cartoons really loves talking animals. And being able to draw both means that I can be like, okay, this person can draw both humans and animals. Like, cool. I like to joke, I'm like, I don't know how to draw animals, but people keep hiring me for it. But you know, I faked it enough to make it. And I'm trying to think what else with that whole bit. Like, I can tell when like someone's not into too much of like an action thing, because I know that I'm not too into action.
Yeah.
You know, like if someone's really into action, their boards are gonna be bomb into like action stuff. But some people are better at comedy, and like that's cool too, you know.
Yeah.
And like horror or musicals, like if you really love that stuff, like lean into it, you know, because then there's probably a show out there for you. It's just whether like if you're gonna go for like, if your type is like a little bit too particular though, then like maybe that's not exactly good for like the animation market. So like kind of play it smart, like you know, see what's out there and be like, okay, like I want to do something like that, and then maybe there'll be a show out there like that. But if it's like, you know, too much into like a specific niche, then like you might not have as much opportunity.
Yeah. Do you mind talking more about like how can you tell if someone's having fun with specific boards, and how do you personally lean into your favorite genre yourself?
You know what? I think it's because I'm a more comedy person. So like when I'm going through boards and I'm more comedy minded, I'll usually like go through it and be like
laughing at your own jokes.
Like I'll laugh at my own jokes, but I'll also like go through someone's portfolio and be like, you know, like some of them are really funny unintentionally or intentionally. I don't know. But like then I know like that person's really into like being funny. But like if I see someone being into action, but like, and the actions are like really creative and like wild, then I'd be like, wow, like, but versus like, and then I punch, and then maybe this will work over here. I don't know. And then like you kind of feel the pacing where you're like, oh no, this is too long.
Yeah.
And it's taking forever to finish. Like I've had some boards where like I wasn't having fun with it anymore, and I would throw it out, and there's my husband's arm.
Oh. Hello.
He's currently working mandatory overtime. I don't recommend it.
Oh no. Yeah. I hope he's okay.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned pacing, and this leads us to our next question from Steven. Any tips on improving pacing sensibilities for storyboarding?
Trust your gut. If you're feeling like it's too long, then it's probably too long. And like the more you can cut down earlier in the process, the less work you have to do. I think it's more like that pacing will come with practice, and you won't feel it until like you start doing more boards. So like you might not get in your first like 5 boards, maybe you'll get on like number 10.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or 15 or 20
or 30.
or never.
Oh no.
I'm kidding on that one.
Jelani Goodson asks, what shows, movies, artists inspired you to become a storyboard artist?
Oh, okay. This is gonna be a real weird one. Again, another thing I saw in high school, but it's super obscure, and it's this OAV called like Animation Runner Kuromi.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was just like a 3-episode like mini series about what it's like to basically be a PA in Japan in the 90s.
Yeah.
But like that like really made me go like, wow, I really want to be a part of something like that. Like the process of like working in animation and like creating something together with other people. I just thought that was really cool and insightful back then. So I guess anime is about animes.
Yeah.
But like even though like they did kind of like really spoof on like the working conditions and like how terrible they were, but even then I was like, I don't care, it still looks cool and more fun. But that was young me. Now I'm like, I'm trying to fix it so it doesn't stink for other people.
Yeah. Let's see here. This one is a little bit more of an intimate question. Feel free, you want to skip it if you want to. Jenny Park asks, how did your parents react to struggling to find a job? I'm dreading what might happen once I graduate if I'm unable to find one due to all the convincing I have to do to get them, to get them to agree with this career path in the first place.
I'll admit it was a lot of fighting.
Yeah. Same here. I'll be honest with you. My
Yeah.
parents didn't like the idea of me working in video games at first.
And it's mostly coming from a place of love, which you don't really realize until you're older.
Mhm.
You know, like what they're mostly worried about is your ability to be financially stable and self-sustaining. They don't really care exactly what you do to get to that point, but they just care that that's the end goal.
Yeah.
But like because they don't understand that art and entertainment is actually like a real big business, right? Like I think like a few weeks ago I went to a conference and they were saying that like entertainment is like maybe the number 4th top export of American industries.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of money to be made there because they don't understand like how to cartoons get made.
Yeah.
They don't know people in the art industry because like let's be real, we were all garnered towards STEM, right?
Yeah.
Science, math, engineering, anything, maybe law. And so like there was a lot of fighting and back and forth and a lot of compromise, right?
Mhm.
Like they were like, okay, you can pursue an art degree, but you have to go to like a regular state school.
Yeah.
Right. So that way, if like you're not just an artist, you're also learning and getting a well-rounded education. And like you're not just focused on this one tiny career path. But you know, even then I was still stubborn. I'm like, no, I still want to be an artist. And like, you know, after a few years of working at retail, they're like, you're at a dead end job. Like, you know, we gotta change something here.
Yeah.
You know, but like what they did believe in was that I was driven and I wanted to do this, you know. And also kind of in retrospect, like it doesn't matter what they think.
I keep telling people that too. It doesn't matter what your parents think, it's your life that you're living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like it and like okay, like this is sort of like a family dynamic thing. So like I'm the person who decided to do the weird art route and like do all this crazy stuff like and go into animation that no one else has experienced, and I guess my husband will peer in through the background. And my brother is a lawyer.
Mhm.
You know, but like who is the favorite child in this family? Like I don't get it.
Who's
I
the
don't
more
get
talented
it.
one? Who's the funnier one? Yeah, I completely
Yeah,
understand.
but you know, like it's like he did everything right, like
Yeah.
everything in the books that like they would have wanted out of a child, and yet
Mhm.
like, you know, they just like hanging out with me more. I don't know, man. Like I just think it's just my cute charms and wits. But yeah, it's sort of like sometimes you do everything they want you to do and it still doesn't make them happy. Sometimes you just break all the rules and they still love you. I don't get it, man.
Yeah.
People are weird. Parents are finicky. Like, as long as you feel like you're doing what's right and like it's not hurting people, I usually go like, well, then what's the problem here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for asking that or answering that really intimate question, Crystal. We really appreciate this.
Yeah, I love my brother.
Yeah, I feel that too. Now I know you love your brother.
Yeah, I like the joke that like they got the lawyer they wanted through all this union stuff, but I didn't get a law degree.
Another question is from VK, and they ask, "Hi, Crystal. Is it hard to get in the animation industry after you're 30 years old? Because I'm afraid it's a little too late."
I don't think so. As
Mhm.
long as the work shows that you're good, we don't usually look at age, we don't usually look at colleges, and we don't usually look at what year you graduated. Although I keep my GPA on my resume to humble brag. Even
flex
though
it
it's
just a
like
little
10
bit.
years old. But I'm on team It's Never Too Late because some people have a midlife crisis and like they decide to switch careers, and that's okay too, right? And also like I've actually earlier today I've talked with some people who were in the animation industry in the 90s and then they left for a little bit and then they decided to come back in like now. So like, you could decide to leave the industry and then come back, and sometimes that's okay too. Like no one seems to mind as long as you can do the work. Sometimes you might be a little bit too outdated, but like, that's just on you to hustle to like get up to date.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've never heard of someone coming back into the industry after leaving.
Yeah, man, these guys were working on like Iron Giant back in the day. And
wow.
like...
Under Brad Bird and everything.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
wild.
So
Noma, did you want to ask the next question from Emil?
Yeah. So Emil asks, do you have any advice for balancing self-study, taking classes, and working on your portfolio? I'm currently taking classes at CDA as well.
Trying to think. Wait, so taking classes, working on your
basically
portfolio,
balancing all of those. So
I mean, they all kind of achieve the same goal though. Like if you're self-studying and you're working on your portfolio and you're studying, then all three of those things are working towards your goal of making a portfolio that's strong enough. Because like making your portfolio is what you're studying. And like
I guess
you can study by
like
making
having enough time to do all those different things that basically achieve the same goal.
Yeah, I don't that's like a stumper. I'm like, wait, but they all do that. That one stumps me. I'm like, wait, but they all do the same thing. I guess it's just more like just pace yourself in a good way, because like like if you notice, I've been wearing this whole time, right? And this is what happens when you overwork yourself too much. So like ergonomics and stuff are super important. So like I might be one of the few within my years of experience that doesn't experience wrist pain, but that's because I'm like hyper vigilant against like working myself too hard and like trying to work strategically, like smarter and not harder.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like what do I need to train on? Okay, well, like let me practice drawing like I think I was like, okay, I'm weak in drawing animals, so I'll take a class where I'm learning how to draw animals and I will practice drawing animals for forever, and it worked enough. But like, you need to pace yourself in a way that you won't hurt yourself.
Does Sydney purchase
Oops, sorry about that. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was gonna be like, you need to pace yourself because this is a long game and not like I need to get here fast. Because like to me, like a career is a marathon, and you kind of need to take care of like this, like all of this. So like you'll eventually get there. It's just more like, yeah, if you grind really hard now, you might burn out faster. So it's kind of like learning how to pace yourself, and that's just something that you kind of have to learn with time,
Yeah, it sounds like you have to listen to your body a lot from your experience. Do you mind telling us like any flags or anything you should look out for specifically?
Pain here.
Yeah.
Pain here.
Yeah.
Learning how to draw with a fatter pen, because I'm the type to like death claw.
Me too. Yeah, I have to get one of these babies too.
Yeah, like learning like fatter pens really help. And then like if it starts hurting, like try to do more stretches. So like I kind of wondered why I never had pain in college, and it was because I was taking Aikido, and twice a week I would do like these kinds of wrist stretches, and
Yeah.
like this kind of wrist
Mhm.
stretch, and like I'm hearing my wrist pop as I'm doing this.
Oh my God.
Oh,
But like doing a bunch of stretches and then making sure you have a really strong back and real like be like Trogdor, have like a really strong arm and back muscle over here.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow, so rude. You think that these kids won't get Trogdor? My husband is throwing shade at me. I'll let you know a high schooler told me about Trogdor like 2 years ago. A high schooler, yes. They know Homestar Runner. Go away.
That was cute. I'm so sorry. Yeah, what's it called? Just my tip. If anything, yeah, listen to your body. I also recommend like a 5-minute walk every once in a while. Oh, what is he doing?
He was trying
it's
to
all
make Tough Love
plushy.
show up. He's making this extremely casual.
No, I love it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, he might just be going nuts with work next to him anyway. Yeah, anyway, what's up?
We definitely we can get to the next question. Noman, do you mind asking?
Uh-huh. Are there any online classes for storyboarding that are ongoing today that you would recommend? Vanessa.
I haven't been in the study game in a while, but I heard CDA is still good. That's Concept Design Academy. And then Brainstorm, I've also heard good things about. You can always join Animation Story Group Discord, where we run monthly challenges and stuff for storyboards. And if you do storyboards there, you can get reviews from, yours truly or a few other people. Project City, I saw that mentioned in the chat. I've heard your mileage may vary depending on who you go to class with. And also there's some personal feelings there, but like that one I'm a little bit more hesitant to recommend just because they're kind of allowing anyone to kind of teach classes there, and not everyone is a good teacher. So it's like one of those things where like sometimes the school doesn't really matter, but like the teachers are more important than the school.
Yeah.
So like if Ben Juono ever runs his class again, I'd be like, take his class. He's really good, but I think he's currently taking a break for work reasons.
Yeah. I also heard in storyboarding or any kind of art, and this applies to me too, is that you do have to find someone who you kind of mesh really well with in terms of talking about art and design. Someone who really gets the way your mind works too. Would you say that also applies?
Yeah, I think so. Like I think when storyboarding really clicked for me was when I took Ben Juono's class, but that's because he styled his class to be like the SAT Kaplan, like like pre-SAT testing style of storyboarding. So like his homeworks were all just like make boards, here's a script, make a board, here is a prompt, make a board, and we'll go over it next week. This is a rough board and try to clean it up, so like if the hint wasn't big enough, the biggest homework and the biggest thing that you need to do is just make storyboards. So I've seen portfolios where people apply for a storyboarding job and they don't have a portfolio, like they don't have storyboards. I'm like, well, what am I looking at here?
Yeah.
Unless your drawings are like so amazing and you have like half a board and it's like super appealing, and I'm like, okay, fine, like you can really draw and you sort of have a board here, fine. But like that would be where I'm like, your drawing skill is like way outpaces your ability to storyboard, and like they'll be like, we could train you, but because you can draw, like we'll take you in. But like that's like a very rare occurrence. Like I think maybe like once in a blue moon. Like I only know maybe a small handful that entered that way, but it's just because they had a like really strong draftsmanship.
Yeah. Is it okay if we go to the next question?
Yeah.
Perfect. Jelani asks, hi Crystal, whenever you make boards, do you always add perspective lines?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. It like sky or ground.
Yeah.
I think it's generally the rule. sometimes I will trick it a little bit and I'll sneak it in and like like how they say like an elbow is the anchor point or something, like in character design or whatever. Kind of do
Yeah.
the same with like perspective. I might be like, oh, and then I'll add some like, I don't know, street lamps, and I'll kind of do this, and then I'll imply perspective.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I usually throw in grids. I think there's some school of thought where they're like, no grids, it looks ugly, and I'd be like, well, then how are they supposed to know where the ground is, my dude?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I usually throw it in just for good measure, just to at least shorthand, like this is the sky, this is the ground.
Yeah. Keep everything trackable.
Yeah.
This next person asked, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm really sorry. I don't speak that language. What would be better to put boards on a portfolio, thumbnail or slide or video?
I am the type who likes to do the click through on my own pace, and I don't like waiting for videos to load. I have a very good friend in this call right now who is on Team Animatic. So if you want to cover your bases, do them all. If you don't, like I'm not judging you for your timing, so I don't think it's necessary to put up an animatic. Also, they take forever to load.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to get through here.
It sounds like when you're doing portfolio reviews, it just sounds like you're just trying to go to like the fastest way possible. Give me the information straight. Let me go at my own pace kind of deal.
Yeah, that's how I feel. But like, you know, it's me, the recruiter, where they're at, which is that they're crunched for time. They've got like 4,000 people who applied to one job, and they're trying to find a right candidate for that job.
Yeah. Make their lives easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Noma, did you want to ask the next question?
Okay. This next question is a little bit long. From Christina, with industry work being more avidly remote since the pandemic, do you think it's still best to move to California for more stable work in animation? I graduated from art school in 2018 and I'm currently living with elderly parents in New Jersey, so I've been scared to relocate.
Dang. That's I feel this one because I worry about my elderly parents every day.
Same.
Yeah.
But they're across the country and I have to have faith that my family will take care of them. I'm hesitant to say yes or no. If you're not going to move to Los Angeles, then your work better be so stellar that it's worth it for them to hire you out of state and let you work remotely. I think is still kind of the answer. Like, again, I had a friend who was hired straight out of New Jersey, but that's because her drawing was just so freaking good. Like, there's no better way to put it. Like it was like her stuff is so good that like they were willing to hire her and wait for her to move over. So like you kind of have to think about it in that sense. It's like, okay, well, they don't have to wait for you to move anymore, but then they might have to send out equipment to you or pay extra because you're not working in studio. So they might have to like pay you for use of your personal equipment or whatever with that law and like trying to deal with something like that. But I mean, there is still a market in New York. Technically, if you were in Jersey, it's harder to break in there because they're so tight knit and the jobs are so few. But it's not impossible. I just decided to leave for Los Angeles instead. But I know some people that are over there. But again, it's like kind of that thing where like the pay in New York City compared to Los Angeles is kind of, it doesn't make it worth it in New York. Because when I was like, again, like this is going to be another weird crystal tangent here, but like, you know, that part where I said I was working retail in Apple, that was also by choice because I was making more working retail in Apple than if I went to Titmouse to animate.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So like what was more worth my time? Like, do I work part-time for Apple and I go like do my own stuff on the side, or do I go work for like basically minimum wage in New York City where I have to spend $20 to get to the city and back?
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes it's sort of like an economic choice, you know, and like it's hard because I know a lot of people who lived in the New Jersey, New York area, and they all moved out here.
Yeah.
And the people who stayed behind in New Jersey, they're like, I'm so tired of my friends moving away from me because they went to Los Angeles for better wages.
Yeah.
Legit quote. And I would be like, yeah, like if I was in that position, I would hate it too.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if I can help you make that choice for yourself, but it's kind of something that you have to think about, whether it's worth leaving like most of your family on the East Coast to have a life out here pursuing your passion.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like even to this day, I'm like, was that a good choice? Well, I met a husband here.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a good choice. I'm kidding. New Jersey is fine. You can try. The Zoom's not letting you.
Does he want to join in?
I mean, he should be working right now. Instead, he's just listening to the Crystal the podcast.
I want to say thank you so much for that answer. I love it when you get really personal in here.
Yeah, it's tough,
Yeah.
like I don't have much family out here, to be honest. Like I have some. They're like distantly related to me through some house, quote unquote, through my dad's village.
Yeah.
But like it's different than the family you grew up with, and it's kind of a hard choice to decide,
Yeah.
And kind of hoping that remote work kind of gives us the ability to at least have some flexibility and some choice. But you know what? Corporations don't give a crap. And that's like the harshest lesson to learn, is that they're just there to make money and they don't care about the humanity of it. And if they could have us all work for free, they would.
I wanted to add on to this and say just for Christina to just take advantage of COVID when you can, take advantage of working online when you can, because it's been a blessing for some, especially me. So please do what you need. Next question from I'm really sorry for butcher this. Munam Bilal is, I have 2 storyboards and 1 animatic in my portfolio. Should I also include more additional stuff like comics and illustration?
I would lean against comics and illustration. Just like you can have it, but don't let it be a majority of your work. We're mostly looking for storyboards. Comics are nice. Like sometimes if you're aiming more for like a board driven show, they might look for that to see your storytelling ability in terms of writing.
Yeah.
But most of the jobs are script driven because we have writers.
Yeah.
Also, if you're gonna pay me the same amount to write and draw, I'd rather just draw.
Oops, super sorry. Okay, so feel free to skip this if you want to. This is a union question. Hello, sorry, from Lauren Tran. Hello, what worker conditions were common in the industry if you're not in the union or pre-union? And what should you look out for to protect yourself?
Ooh, sometimes they'll make you work through lunch. And they'll provide lunch. They'll be like, here is free lunch, but we want you to work through lunch. Sometimes, depending on the studio, they'll just have you work forever. As late as you want, and like not care about OT or whatever. Let me think. Well, unpaid internships was a thing because your girl did it.
Yeah, same.
That sucked. I absolutely hated it. Now that I think about it in retrospect, like I paid to be in that internship because I had to pay for my dumb bus ticket.
Can I ask you a question about the unpaid internship? Because for my first unpaid internship, it was more so my head was like, okay, whatever, I could get the connections and that'll lead me to my first job. Did you get connections that led you to your first job?
No,
me neither.
I am but actually, well, I guess long game, it worked out 10 years later because I am working with someone that I met through unpaid internship. But like I would say like I haven't really, like I don't know if that really counts because like I don't know if that didn't work out back then like would have worked out now. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like was that more my unpaid internship or because I moved out here and I made a lot of friends and they happened to move out here too?
Yeah.
Like to be fair, all the people I unpaid interned with were all in the industry, but like it was all because we all moved out here.
Yeah.
I don't complicated. Wait, what was the original question again?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. What were the worker conditions, or what worker conditions were common in the industry if you're not in a union or pre-union?
Okay. I mean, union-wise, it's more like it's definitely a lot nicer than it is on non-union, but sometimes you'll end up on non-union productions with union artists, and they'll try to look out for you there too. So like, for example, like you can look to your pay being like less than half of what a storyboard artist would make on a union production. Like, I think I remember like I was making 1K as a storyboard artist versus like a union artist at that time was closer to 2K, you know? So like your pay is just like obnoxiously less than everyone else's.
Yeah.
And then like you might face some more, well, I don't know. It's more like that, but then like sometimes you'll have like a cool boss that is like kind of more like union driven, and like when you tell them your pay at like the other non-union studio, they'll be like, ah, gross, what? And then they'll get you union rates.
Yeah.
You know, so like
wow.
like your mileage may vary depending on who you're working with, because like that guy looked out for me and I owe a lot to him because of that, you know.
Yeah.
I still think about that director. He's really cool.
That's good. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, yeah. It really feels like people are looking out for each other in the animation industry once you're in. It sounds like people have your back a lot of the times.
It just depends on like who's in charge, right? Like you can also be on a union production and it could suck, but it's because the person in charge doesn't value taking care of their people.
Yeah.
You know, but you could also end up on a union production where like everything is really great because we all were really thoughtful about who's down the line and like taking care of each other. So it really depends, you know.
Yeah. This next question from the FBI, Asian Animation's FBI agent. When practicing storyboarding, what are you personally storyboarding? Do you storyboard your personal projects? Do you storyboard from a movie script, etc.?
I haven't done one in a long time, but I have a few that I kind of think about. I have a few extra ones that I put in my mental folder of if I ever teach a class, I will put this in my instructions of homework.
Yeah.
But if I was to do one now, I think I kind of, let's see. I think I had like two in my mind of a musical one. One is like a Hamilton one, but everyone does Hamilton, but I really want to do the depressing song.
Yeah.
Like everyone does like, you know, like all the like fun, snappy ones. I'm like, what if I made Hamilton cry? Right? I just watched Dear Evan Hansen. Now I'm like sitting there watching the movie being like, I could board this better. Oh God, oh my God, are you serious? God, like on a plane. Okay, like I wasn't really eating because I was on a plane, but like I was just sitting there angrily being like, I could do better.
Yeah. It sounds like you're taking like these intellectual properties and these episodes and making it your own. Right.
Yeah, that could be like an exercise that you could do too, because like that was also some of my homework is like you could take like existing IP and then adapt it for film, and like some people look for something like that, especially in feature. So like, for example, I might jokingly be like, I don't know, take a scene from Fire Emblem, like 3 Houses, where they just have basic camera setups where they just do that. And the camera just goes around like that because it's all pre-programmed, and board it better.
I just want to check in really quickly. Right now it's 8:26. We're about an hour and a half into this. How are you feeling?
Let's go. Well, are you hungry? Yeah. Are you hungry now, or do you want to wait until like 9 o'clock? Okay, we'll go until 9 then. He's trying to finish one more thing.
I got you. Okay. Noman, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm good.
You feeling good? Okay, just making sure. Yeah. This next question from sorry, what was that?
Oh no. I found the question.
Oh, did you want to ask it?
Oh yeah, it's from Jelani again. Hey Crystal, what are some ways I can improve my cover letter and resume to stand out to recruiters?
I am the worst person to ask that because I will send Jess a resume and my portfolio and be like, I don't need to tell you anything in a cover letter. Like 90% of my applications, I'm like, cover letter? Who's this? Go away. I don't want to write. Is that like too shameful to admit?
No, I'll be real with you. I haven't been in a recruiting side, but a lot of people I know who recruit just like I don't read the cover letter, to be honest with you. So, in video
I
games, at
kind of
least. In video
figured as
games.
much. I was like, I don't want to write it. You don't want to read it. Like, let's just stop the fake dance here.
Yeah, I don't want to fake my personality for this. Do I have any tips for resumes and cover letters? Not really. Just get straight to the point. I think if you do want to get or stand out, I always cold email the recruiter. I get to know them and address it personally on the cover letter or resume. So that's what I always do.
I think the reason why I operate that way is because I'm in an artist role. So I'm like, my pictures will do the talking. Look at my work.
Yeah, as a designer, I'm like, just look at my designs. If I don't fit, just don't hire me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you're more aiming for like, PA or like production side role, or like if you're trying to change careers, then maybe it's worth it. Like, why is this person applying to this job? It's like, well, I worked in here and these are my applicable skills to bring over to this other industry and I want to switch, then maybe that's where a cover letter makes more sense. But for the most part, it's just sort of like, look at my drawings, please.
Yeah, if I fit, hire me. Sorry, I'm looking for the next question. Okay, Jelani's asking another question. By the way, everyone, please keep asking questions. We are going on until 9 p.m. PST. Unless Crystal wants to cut it a little earlier. Jelani asks, last question, Crystal. How do you dedicate creative energy to storyboarding and make your own content without exhausting yourself?
Realize that your personal projects have no deadlines and everything is a lie.
No, I know. I'm trying to struggle with that too. I always when I'm working on my own stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get this out fast. And I'm like, why am I stressing out? It's my own personal stuff.
Yeah, like they owe me for my free content.
Yeah.
So I work at the pace that I want and I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
That's my energy at this point. I'm like, yeah, I used to do a weekly webcomic, but now I just do it whenever I feel like it. And yeah, sure, it took me 2 years to draw 26 pages, but it was at least done.
Yeah, I did it comfortably, and I was.
Did you not realize that I also did a lot of union activism at the same time?
Sorry, I'm looking for more questions.
Okay, I found it. Do you want me to ask?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, from Ryan. For CDA, what other storyboard teachers would you recommend, if you know any?
I don't know the current ones. I remember looking like this past week or two, being like, who is there? All of my teachers are gone.
Oh,
okay.
Do you know any current teachers you just want to give a shout out to who you feel like would be great teachers?
If Trey Bongiorno is still teaching, then him, but he just had a baby, so I don't think so. And then maybe Sam Szymanski might still be teaching here and there, but I also haven't seen him offer it recently. Stephanie Stein is teaching though, and she's at Brainstorm, and she's a CDA alum with me. She's my old classmate. She's also like head of story at DreamWorks or something like crazy like that. But I would plug her class because she's trained under the same guys that I've trained under, and like most of my classmates we've broken in at this point.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part. It's like once you're in this far, you're like, and I know this person because they went to class with me, and I know that person because they went to class with me. And we all did it. But then I'm like, we need to get this one person back in. We need to do it.
I'm really sorry. Someone made a really funny comment. Emil said, Ben Juono being the Kumon Center of storyboards. I love that. That's so good. That's so good.
He really is.
Were you a Kumon kid?
No, I wasn't, but I had a friend who was.
Yeah.
I think my parents didn't have the money for Kumon.
I wasn't a Kumon kid, but because my parents could not afford it. But yeah, it was hell for all my friends who were Kumon.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure Ben Juono's cool.
prep class.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Ben's cool though. Next question from Sophia C. Can you elaborate on your advocacy work and the other kinds of things you were advocating for?
So these days it's mostly like workers' rights, as well as like mostly like with the diversity angle with it. I don't want to say DEI because that's the employer's language. And so like that doesn't feel like it really and it also doesn't really speak to me because diversity, equity, and inclusion also includes sexism and ageism. But in terms of history, sexism tends to be overshadowing people of color, racism stuff, because it's historically usually like, you know, white women will use it as a way to get in and get more. And then ageism is like a white man's way of being like, but what about me? So I think the intention of having a people of color committee within our union was on purpose, so that the voices of people of color don't get diluted out by these other people. So like that's kind of where I've kind of realized and landed on. So a lot of what I do is like mentoring, like teaching, talking to y'all, like being like, because like in my brain, I'm like, I don't want another Asian kid to like grow up in high school and be like, I can't do a creative job, right? Because like that was where I was like, I went to a school to mentor like kids for the first time because I was interested in it. And like they paired me up with another Asian kid in high school, and that's what they were feeling. And I'm like, but that was what I was feeling 10 years ago. Like I need to find a way to change this in the community, that like, you know, it's tough, but it's doable if you want it. And like that's the part that I have to emphasize, is like you want to have it, like you gotta really want it, you know, because it's going to be a way uphill battle here, because, you know, trying to make the game, the playing field a little bit more fair and more just is kind of where I'm kind of leaning towards. Whether it's like trying to find ways that we can make it easier for people of color to get noticed, or like be seen, or just have more connections, because like it's hard.
It's difficult.
And just having a community to talk about it is, which is why I'm glad there's Asians in animation. I'm just kind of like, man, I really wanted this, but I didn't have the time to set it up. I'm glad that like all of y'all stepped up for it. And I kind of ended up on the union side of things. But like it's just trying to find ways to make it more equitable for someone to not have to go into debt to get into this industry. Because I know high schoolers who have broken in straight from high school into college, or straight in from high school to job. But I also would not always recommend that path, you know, like, because that means that you had to be really good at drawing in high school, and I know I wasn't. Like I'll just be frank to myself, my past self. I'd be like, but like, yeah, like that's like kind of the advocacy work that I'm trying to push for, is like trying to find avenues where we can make the system at least a little bit more level. Like I'm trying to find it through the union side of things, but like there's ways to do it outside of labor, outside of work. I don't know if doing it within the work system is actually useful, is kind of my thought, because if it's been done, if DEI is like an actual industry where people work there like as like a full-time job, then like why is there no progress being made? You know, so like part of the work is also trying to climb as far up as I can so I can advocate for people.
You have to be in positions of power to really help distribute that power too.
And like part of it is also leading by example, like being a cool Asian person, being like, you know, pro, standing up for ourselves. And like it's really hard to be like that when you're a person of color. It's like to be someone that advocates for other people. And like it's not one that is for the faint of heart, but it's also like, you know, learning to have the energy of like of like just being like, they can't touch me, I'm untouchable, let's do it, let's go. If they try to hurt me, I'll have at least 100 people riot because they love me.
Definitely a power in numbers thing.
It's a power in numbers for sure.
So please advocate for each other when you guys have the power to. Jelani gets to ask one more question. By the way, Jelani, I want to say, I know you've been asking a lot of questions, but I love all of them. They asked one more question. I've heard that being a PA or a storyboard checker are good ways to start into the industry. Any other positions to consider?
Storyboard checker?
I guess cleanup.
Yeah, I
correct?
guess revisionist. Maybe?
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess revisionist.
Yeah.
Mm, I think those are the two main ways though.
Yeah.
I mean, to get a PA job, I think most people start off as an intern. Because usually what they'll do is that when they have an open PA job, they'll pull from their intern pool. So that's kind of why it's hard to break in as a PA. The alternative to that, I think, is actually to do like one of those temp services where they hire you part-time. Or like they hire you like project by project basis. Like some companies use like a temp service to find candidates to make it easier to put into a PA role, but I'm not 100% sure which like organizations do that. I think that might be it. Working for the guild office also is one. I'm kidding. There's not enough people. There's not enough roles there, but
yeah.
I guess that is a possibility.
I've always heard that once you're in a specific role in animation, it's really hard to convince, I guess, recruiters to pick up another role. Like for example, if you're a PA, it's hard to convince a recruiter to like put you in a storyboarder position. Is that true?
Mileage may vary depending on the studio. So like some studios, they hire you for a production role and they want you to stay in production, because if you leave for an artist role, then they have to fill your role, and that's a huge headache for them.
Right.
Other studios are very chill with it, and they'll be like, come take our classes that we have inside our studio and like go learn, and we'll promote you from within and stuff. But it's also a secret way for them to suppress your wages. So like, it really depends, but like, hey, like it's the devil you live with. So depending on the studio, some are more friendly than others, basically.
Yeah. Sorry, thank you for the answer. I love that, Crystal.
Yeah.
Next question. Did you want to ask it, Nolan?
Yeah, it's from Jelani again. Last question, I hope. What do you do? I have a feeling she might ask again, but who knows? What do you do when you're at the end of a project and you feel that more could have been done?
Like at work?
I guess, yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta throw in that towel, man.
Yeah.
I don't think you get much of a choice at the end of a project. They usually just go like, oh, your work is done. And I'm like, it sure is done, or it sure is not done, but well, my time is done. I'm sorry and forgive me. Here you go, director. I am burnt out. But like I try not to do that one, at least.
I think that feeling is always gonna be with people forever. Like you always felt like you could have done better on the specific job, but always know that like you did what you did.
Yeah, what's done is done. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Leave it on the field.
Yeah, if Pete Docter could look back at Monsters Inc. and be like, yeah, we could have done better. You're never gonna get over that. And I think just living.
You're always gonna try to do better on your next job anyway. Like if I wasn't better than like last like 2 projects ago me, then like what am I doing?
Exactly. A lot of great tips in comments in this comment section. Love this chat. No, man, I'm so sorry. Do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, sure. From Early, hi Crystal. I love to do feature storyboards, but there's not many companies doing feature animation. Should I switch to TV animation in order to get a job relatively easier?
At that point, it's sort of like a numbers game, like think about it this way, like how many movies are being put out per company, and then how many board artist roles are there per project, right? And then multiply. Whereas like there's a lot of TV projects, like so many. And like also they might do like mini series or like some weird other forms now that like everyone's going experimental with streaming. Like why limit yourself to just feature? Like you could be like, I would like to do feature someday, but it doesn't have to be my first job.
Yeah. I love, oh sorry, go on.
Oh, I was gonna be like, my first job was not feature. So you sometimes end up on projects you don't really love, but then you just find something that you like doing about it.
Yeah.
Like the shameful legacy of Norma the North crew which is me and Benjuano, by the way, and Stephanie Stein too. We all worked on Norm of the North series, and I would be like, I don't want you guys to watch it. Don't save your time. Somewhere in there, money from out overseas got in there.
Yeah, and something happened. I want to say you said something that I really resonated with was it's a numbers game. Look out for which companies are getting the funding and who's sort of expanding. I always look at like the most recent articles in the video game industry of like, oh, who got this kind of funding, which projects are really successful, and I start applying. I typically found that like people who are expanding, you have a higher chance of getting into.
Yeah,
How about you, Crystal?
maybe like maybe if a certain company had a huge layoff recently, wait like about a year or two before that company settles down and like starts greenlighting new projects.
Yeah,
everything is cyclical, like even though with the recent news of some studios having a fun time, I say that with sarcasm. Like I've seen at least like 4 other studios already do that within the 8 years that I've lived out here,
Yeah.
So like every studio is gonna have their own like cyclical pain. And that's where they wipe the board and they put in new executives and then they start greenlighting new projects again, but it's gonna take some time for the machine to kind of rev up again. But now that that is revved up, it'll be good times at this one studio, But like, you just keep your ears here, like sometimes you just can't be picky.
Yeah. Next question from film producer. They went on this really long chat comment of talking about like what to do and how to network and how to make friends when you enter a building. And then they asked this question afterwards saying, what do you do for interview follow-up?
Interview follow-up?
Yeah.
Usually be like afterwards, maybe I'll wait a little bit, like a week, and then be like, hey, really like talking to you guys. Let me know what's up.
Yeah, same here. I always make sure to follow up after a week or two. Make sure like, hey, like where am I in the process? If anything, you want to like hit me up on LinkedIn and we can connect on there and I can just chat with you once in a while. So that's what I do.
Yeah. It's just like a courtesy reply. I probably should have done that for a few interviews recently, but I mean,
yeah. Don't worry about it. Yeah, you it's a learning process. You know what I mean? You get better as you go.
We're not perfect, man.
Yeah. Noma, did you want to read the next question?
Yeah. Ariel's back again with another question. She says, say, if you know someone from the industry, how would you ask him or her to recommend you to a recruiter? Like forwarding your portfolio to the recruiter directly?
I would probably wait until I have something new and then be like, hello, I have made new thing for a portfolio. Do you know any places that are looking? And then I'd be like, it sure looks like you updated your portfolio. Let me think through my Rolodex in my brain, who is looking? But like, so it's a lot of word of mouth, but like, I would also be like, pay attention to like hiring seasons, like even though they don't really say it out loud, like logistically it makes sense that like springtime is kind of the bonanza hiring season, and then it kind of keeps going until summer and then kind of teeters off around like Thanksgiving and Christmas-ish. But that's mostly because like on a financial point, if you thought like an accountant, which I am not, like budgets get like greenlit and like for the fiscal year, and the fiscal year ends, wherever the heck that happens. But like pretty much if they don't want to pay for your holiday, they'll be less likely to hire people between like Thanksgiving to New Year's. And so that's kind of where like the dead zone of hiring season is. So I would be like, well, okay, if I didn't get a job by like say October, I might just use those 2 months to just focus on getting really good and like making another portfolio piece and then try again in like January.
Yeah.
It's just the way that the seasons go.
Let's see here. Next question. Noma, do you mind asking it too?
Oh, sure. Emil asks, a lot of non-university art schools, have you been online for the past years? Okay, sorry, I don't know how this is worded, but what was your experience trying to make more art friends once you moved to LA?
I think, let me think about all the dumb things I've done. I think I've like I still sometimes go to some of them, but like I would go to like meetup.com back then and like go to open artist meetups by myself, which is honestly not necessarily the safest thing to do as a young woman in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But like, hey, they turned out to be chill.
Wait, are there experiences where like someone made a really bad setup or with like really bad intentions on meetup.com before?
Not really, honestly.
Yeah, okay, I was about to say, I use
out.
that. Yeah, I use that for the gaming industry. I've never had
I mean, my
problem.
mom would probably be like, you did what? And I'd be like, you don't know. I'm an adult. I can gauge my own safety.
Yeah.
And then I think from there, I would just go to like classes and then meet people. And then they'd be like, hey, you want to hang out? Do you want to draw? Do you want to sketch over here? And then I guess like going to mixers also kind of helped, but I'm also like incredibly shy. So
yeah.
I have to put on my extrovert face, you know. Again, a helpful skill from working at Apple is just fake learning how to be an extrovert. And like holding a conversation, talking with people and like asking questions and like being genuinely interested in conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just like you have to kind of go out, but like it's really hard these days because again, like last 2 years we're all holed up inside, so everyone's doing this like weird crab dance around each other, being like,
"Don't touch
did we
me.
hang out? Is it time to hang out?" And like sometimes there are events that like are open to everyone, so like I think we're starting to try to throw more union events, like general community events through the union, and ideally like I want to start throwing more of those.
Yeah.
Especially like along with the People of Color Committee, I kind of want to like start planning those kinds of things, but you know, I'm only one human.
Yeah.
But like I think you know, like maybe like have someone that like would be willing to like hang out with you or like invite you to events. Like I'll be like, oh, this person seems chill, let's like bring him along or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a bunch of us are going to the May Day March. That's a union activity.
Ooh, hit that up.
It's gonna be May 1st in downtown LA, outdoors. You get to get your steps in.
Meet some cool people who are advocating for your rights and pay.
Yeah.
Next question, again from Emil Kapinpin. Let me know if I said that wrong. How often do you see board artists burning out in TV animation? And do you see
Too
people too often? They also
truly too.
They also ask, do you see people often trying to schedule breaks in between productions?
Yeah. So like I've seen many burn out at this point, and some people have just completely quit the industry too. And sometimes that's also because of just the working conditions and like subtle racism and sexism and ageism all combined, you know, like sometimes it's just too much and they just decide, you know what, it's not worth it to be here anymore, you know. I've made a conscious decision to be like, no, I'm gonna stay because like, you know, screw it, let's just try to fix the system from the inside. And like I've burnt out. Like I worked 2 years straight through the pandemic. I was working 5 years straight from at that time. No vacations, no breaks. I was just like, you know what, I don't need a break during COVID. I'm staying inside, give me the money.
Yeah.
You know, but like I took maybe about 2.5 months off, and like I'm like, okay, yes, I'm okay enough to go back to work. And then I'm like, but am I still able to work?
What are your tips
right now the answer is still okay.
Yeah. I do have a big contract with a company, and I realized that like, yeah, I was like really close to burnout, and I've been kind of chilling for about a month and a half. Would you have any suggestions for trying to recover from burnout?
Don't think about storyboarding for 2 months.
Don't think about the job. Screw it. Yeah, just vibe.
Like go out, go smell some grass, go touch grass, see your parents, go see your family, go hang out with all your aunties and uncles. Like that's what I did when I went back to Jersey. I like legit was just sitting there hanging out with a bunch of senior citizens, and I'm like, yep, this is where I need to be right now.
Yeah.
You know, so take the time for yourself to heal, you know, because, you know, sometimes, you know, it's not worth it to bring yourself out for work is kind of where I'm at, you know, like
Yeah.
it's again a career, not a burnout race.
Yeah. Pace yourself,
Like,
please. Respect your body.
you can still have aspirations and dreams to go up there, but like,
Yeah.
you know, just be kind to yourself about it is how I kind of feel.
Yeah.
You know, like sure, I may not be director now, but like maybe in, I don't know, whenever it happens, I'll let life take me where it takes me.
Yeah. Let's see here. Amelia Kim says, I'm about to move internationally for animation school. Hey, congratulations.
Wow.
I'm feeling really nervous. Any tips on moving, adjusting to a new culture as someone who moves cross country?
Oh, wait, also internationally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the only time I could actually relate to this is back when I studied abroad for one summer. That was my parents' last ditch attempt to get me to learn Chinese, by the way.
Yeah.
It worked slightly in their favor. I can understand Chinese better. But I have an emotional impediment to myself wanting to speak Chinese.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess if I don't know, like go and explore, have fun, like check out the city, go live. Like go check out some places. If you're in a new place, like go explore and have fun, you know, like you're here. But also, I mean, work hard too at the same time. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna have a whole new experience. It's gonna be wild. You're gonna learn how an entire different culture operates and how people interact differently in a different place. I think it's kind of cool in the sense that like it'll help inform your art, you
Mhm.
know, like going out there and having life inform how you make acting choices or like maybe like the experiences that you have, you may not see as useful now, but like maybe in like you'll find a point in a board where you're like, I can use this one useless thing that I thought was useless, but it's not useless. Haha.
Yeah.
Like in high school, I was into sign language, so I know a little bit of sign language club. It was
Mhm.
fun. And it came in handy when I ended up on a show that required sign language.
Oh, was that the one that being advertised all over like social
Um,
media a while ago?
It was Madagascar a little while. They had a deaf
Oh,
chimp or
oh,
two. And like
oh,
so they had like we had sign language interpreters to like help us with the sign language stuff. And I was like, I know a little bit.
that
I'm gonna put in squirrel.
that's so cute. I love that.
Yeah.
So we're about 5 minutes away from 9, but I'm gonna say let's answer one more question, or if you want some last words, and then
Oh wait, and
also,
also wait, one more thing with the international stuff. Learn a lot about all the international like visa stuff, like, and also put yourself
Yeah.
out there and do as much like, uh, what was it like those like art shows and stuff. Because like I
yeah.
know a few friends who are going through that process, and I'm like, now, thank you, mom and dad, for going through this before me.
Hey, you got this, Amelia. I see you. I see your face. Don't worry. You got this. Yes, that's the vibe. But
Yeah, do
yeah,
some stuff for Crystal, and she will write you a letter of recommendation for your green card application.
yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, can I also add something? I personally have experience moving internationally from Mongolia to like Colorado, and it was a daunting experience at first, but you learn to adjust as long as you
Mhm.
make friends, go out and experience your new world, travel, and if you like mess up on some cultural things, that's totally okay. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
You got this.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised how many people are also show kindness.
Okay, so last 4 minutes, I do have a special request from Crystal and the crowd and the guests and everyone here. If you're okay with it, please turn on your cameras for a group photo with Crystal. Crystal, you okay with that?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then on top of that,
I'm so glad I made sure to look extra nice, which
Yeah.
is just barely more than usual.
and our last question for tonight is, do you have any last words for those who are trying to break in, or any animators out there who are just down on their doubts?
You gotta just be nice to yourself, man.
Just be nice to yourself.
Like, you know, your harshest critic is yourself, right? Like I was the hardest on myself during that journey, and everyone else sees the good in you, and sometimes it's hard to forget. Like it's really easy to forget, but it's hard to remember.
Yeah. Thank you for those words, Crystal. Oh my gosh. Everyone, please round of applause for Crystal, and then let's take a quick group photo. Thank you so much, Crystal. We appreciate everything. Real quick, everyone pose. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. All right, we're all good to go.
Got to be super Asian about this. Like, is it still like 2000? Is it 2000? I was thinking like if
early 2000s. AnimAsians, what's up? But yeah, thank you so much, Crystal.
Yeah, like this is like the new thing, right?
Yeah, this is the new thing. Everyone, all my friends in AIA are doing this too. I don't
Although
know.
I guess it's new as of like 3 years ago, because I think that was when I was taught this pre-pandemic.
Yeah. Does anyone know where this comes from? If you could
it's a heart from like K-pop.
Oh,
Korean.
I'm not part of the K-pop scene.
I don't know K-pop either.
Yeah, but when is it Sony working on that new K-pop movie?
Yes.
When that comes out, I'll be all on top of that, so it'll be all good. All right, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out.